All right, David, thank you for joining the podcast. I really appreciate you jumping on here. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. So I run DealMachine. Historically, it's been a real estate app for 8 years or so. But this year, a lot of roofers have been coming to us for the homeowner data that we've traditionally provided real estate investors. So I think what they found is when there's a storm, they'll go find those spots, but they'll come to us and they'll draw a circle around the map and they'll export the contact info for all those homeowners, right? So they could filter out as well by how old their roof is. So for me, I mean, we've typically helped the real estate investors, but it's been amazing that roofers kind of found us. So I've been going to a few roofing conferences this year, like When the Storm, and started hosting a weekly call as well, just to help any roofers who are interested in kind of doing that via cold calling specifically.
Nice. And what year did you get into Deal Machine?
DealMachine was formed in 2017, so we're going on about 8 years.
Nice. And what made you get started in that?
So I was actually trying to find my first rental property, and I was not finding anything that would like make the numbers work. And I ended up hearing that most people need to find rundown houses, so that way you can get it for a good price, and then you can pay money to fix it up. But the end result will be a very valuable house for you didn't pay the full price essentially because you created that value. I was basically looking for the rundown house and wanting to send a letter to the owner, but I kept forgetting to follow through. And I made an app that allowed real estate investors to do just that. And then it evolved over the years to being able to provide like 700 filters for like how old is the owner, how long have they lived there, what language do they speak, what's their net asset value, and then permits for the areas that do require permits for roofs. You could see the age of the roof, but just lots of real estate and owner specific filters like that. It's just how we evolved and started to be able to provide more value to the real estate investors and roofers.
Yeah, and where do you get that data from?
So the way we put together different data sets is our unique advantage in the marketplace. So, I mean, the base level of data is available. There's 3,000 counties. And so there's different places where you can license that nationwide. That's kind of the base layer.
Interesting. Okay. And what is it membership based? How is it with?
Yeah, so it costs $119 a month. There's a 7-day free trial, and then you can look up unlimited properties. And there's even somebody door knocking, for mortgage refinances. And I was like, whoa, that's next level because you could see what their mortgage interest rate is and if they have equity. So you could filter out the properties in a neighborhood that have both of those things, high interest rate, decent amount of equity, and just knock those doors. So I'm really surprised and excited about other people who are starting to find the app valuable.
Interesting. Now,
But on the 119, so you can
mhm,
look up unlimited properties, but then you can export up to 10,000 homes per month on that price point. So
got
it
it.
ends up being like 1.2 cents per house if you maximize that allotment for exporting. And that includes their phone number and their email and a lot of really valuable data.
Now, what would the process for a roofer look like?
Typically, if you're looking for like storm damaged areas, you're going to need some outside app to tell you where the storms were. But if you want the most accurate homeowner data based on what the roofers are saying is they're then coming to our app and they're using the drawing tool to draw that area or type in the county or the zip code, and then they'll filter it out to roofing material. Maybe they just want to look at asphalt shingle, roofs, and maybe they want to do some square footage as well, maybe filter out commercial properties, etc. But it's fairly straightforward, and then you would go and export those and get in touch with those homeowners specifically. And so that's basic. That's how simple it is, right? Then you just need to have a script in order to set an appointment. So that's pretty much it.
Now, are you guys available in every state?
Yeah, we're available in every state in the United States. Not other countries though. Here in the United States, we've got the Freedom of Information Act, but in Canada and some other countries that would be great to help out. Unfortunately, they have they have the opposite. Actually, they have the Privacy of Information Act or whatever. Basically, they don't publish a lot of that data on who owns real estate.
Got it. I see. Okay. And what year did you realize that roofers were using this?
It was actually earlier this year. I looked and I was trying to interview some of our top customers for my podcast. I routinely do that. And I
Mhm.
found somebody had 6 DealMachine accounts. And I was like, who has 6 DealMachine accounts and why? And it turned out it wasn't even a real estate investor, but it was somebody in the roofing space. And that was the first tip for me that was like February this year, that I was like, oh man, seems like this is really valuable outside of real estate investing too.
Interesting. Is there any other industries that are tapping into this?
So I just mentioned kind of the mortgage one. There's also quite a few solar individuals who they're actually calling people, now the tax credit for solar has kind of gone away. And so they're looking for more efficient ways than just door knocking their local market. They would be able to make more of a commission without the tax credit if they talk to homeowners in areas where electricity is a higher price, because not every state or city has the same energy costs. It varies from 15 cents a kilowatt hour to up to 40 cents a kilowatt hour. So if you're going to a place where it's 40 cents a kilowatt hour, then it becomes more worthwhile for that person to buy solar and spend the money on the solar. So that's the other industry that I've noticed that's really kind of, drove, to DealMachine, and started referring friends and stuff.
Have you seen any pest control owners in there? Just because I do door-to-door
So
knocking as well.
yeah, I do think that it could be worthwhile. I'm less familiar with the pest control. I think just people haven't naturally come in, but I do know the people who do door to door for roofing or for solar, oftentimes they may also have another product that they can sell, like security, et cetera. So I personally haven't spoken to a pest control door to door person, but I'm not sure, what would you filter? What would you imagine filtering? Or would you just knock on everybody's door in the neighborhood?
I would probably just say the landscape of it,
Mm.
the square footage of how much they have.
Okay, well, you could definitely filter by that, and then you could definitely like look who owns the house and see their information on
Yeah.
like what kind of degree do they have, what's the net asset value, what's the household income before you knock on the door. So at least you could have an accurate name to say, "Hey, Marvin, I'm looking for Marvin." It's just so that it would be valuable from that standpoint.
Yeah. Now, David, what does your day-to-day look like now?
So I actually have run DealMachine for 8 years, and I do run most of our meetings with the team on Mondays. We got 35 employees, so I have 6 direct reports, different departments: engineering, marketing, sales, customer support, and then head of product. So they decide what the engineering team works on, et cetera. So we do a weekly meeting. So I run that, do one-on-ones with my direct reports. Hiring talent is a big, position of when needed that I would spend my time on. But other than that, it would be really diving into an area of the company that's most needed. So a lot of my free time it might change month to month based on whatever the company needs. So 6 months ago, I was really diving deep into the customer support to make sure that was exactly how we needed it to be, especially as the app started to evolve, right, and serve different types of customers and be more data centric than just the door to door. So it really depends on like what's the most needed. And right now, I would say, I'm spending my time on focusing on these new industries that seem to be coming to us, like roofing, solar. I'm hosting those weekly calls, running ads to get that group together, and asking, guest speaker to come talk every week.
Nice. So essentially, you're focusing on scaling right now and see what markets you can tap into.
Yep.
Nice. Well, what levers are you pulling besides that? Just a podcast and doing those weekly meetings. Is there any other levels you're pulling to try to tap into those markets?
I'm personally very engaged on social media, in the groups on Reddit and in the groups on Facebook, answering people's questions. And I'm also going to select conferences in those niches so that I can be the one to like really learn and understand who those customers are, what they need help with, and how I can help them. So I don't know. It seems like less like a lever because it doesn't seem like a scalable thing to do. But I feel that it really makes a difference because it provides me the knowledge to then instruct my team eventually and take some of those tasks off my plate at some point. So that's what I'm doing. Unscalable things to scale.
Nice.
You ever heard Gary Vaynerchuk say that? Some people focus so much on scaling, they become so distant from their customers. So then you're scaling like an inefficient thing. But Gary's like, if you could find a way to scale the unscalable, that's like the recipe for having success. So I feel that I'm more engaged than my peers, especially in the real estate industry, which is where we've been for 8 years, right? And I think it just really makes a difference because that one person has a great response because they're seeing like, oh man, the CEO is commenting on my post. And then hopefully they tell somebody else. I mean, it's hard to prove, it's hard to track, but it feels good. I feel like it has to make a difference.
Yeah, that makes sense. I never thought of it that way. I've never heard Gary Vaynerchuk say that, but yeah, that makes total sense.
He also says it another way is you got to be in the clouds and in the dirt. And so I think the dirt is definitely the unscalable part that he's talking about, because the clouds is like the stereotype, what we hear about scaling a company. Don't do that, hire somebody else to do that, which is true. But if you're only up in the clouds the whole time, you won't know exactly what the problems are on the ground level, you know? So I think that's what he means. And he had those K-Swiss shoes like 5 years ago, and they were called Clouds and Dirt. And the underside of it had like clouds on one and dirt on the other. Remember
Mm.
that? I don't know if you followed him for a while, but I have, and that was his shoe name.
He actually disappeared on my algorithm for years, and then he just recently popped up again.
Yeah. Well, that's his point, though, right? Because you get what you need from him, and then you no longer need him to be in your ear telling you what to do,
Yeah.
right? And then maybe you come back because he changed subject a little bit.
Yeah, or maybe fully understand what he means.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Because that was the thing for me. I was young and I would hear all these things he was saying, but it didn't resonate to me because at the time I didn't have a business.
You
I-
didn't have the context to understand what he was saying, correct?
yes, and now that I do, I understand what he means by things and his philosophy behind a lot of things. So, yeah, absolutely. Are there any trends you see emerging in your field that you plan on adopting?
Man, I feel like the biggest trend is, I'll speak from my experience in the real estate industry just because we've been there for 8 years. And when the market is hot versus when the market is cold, it's totally different than when my company was doing well versus when my company was not doing as well. And I have to say, like, just taking extreme ownership over the performance of your company I mean, that's how we've performed, right? It's like the past 2 years, real estate investors have said that it's been really tough market, and some of the vendors in this space have been like struggling. But that the last 2 years have been our best 2 years ever. And so I just always come back to that. If my team says, hey, well, the reason why, signups are down is because of the market. They're not really allowed to say that at DealMachine because that's never been the case. It's never tracked exactly with what the market's doing. It's totally unrelated, actually, if you actually look at our data. So I really challenge them and other entrepreneurs to think, is that it? Or is there something more we could be doing right now to be better? And I think there's always an answer there.
Yeah. Even with the last 2 years being the best 2 years, what do you think is your biggest challenge at the moment?
Marketing. I think we actually grew 4 years without any marketing team at all. It was a word of mouth product that was a very good product market fit in the real estate investor space. People talked about it naturally. And when you do something meaningful, then eventually there are people that want a piece of that. They copy that. They come up with a competing, lookalike type solution. And so that definitely made me realize, man, our whole business is driven off word of mouth. We should learn how to do marketing. I should learn personally how to do social media. And it's like a muscle. It's not an easy thing to learn and master, but I really took the time to learn that skill myself, because I feel like as a leader, you always do need to like take stuff off your plate, but I want to learn it first, so that way I know the person I've hired to do it, I've got a sense of if they're doing a good job or how they should be measured, better than if I just blindly hired somebody to go take over that. So we've grown the market. We formed a marketing team. I personally started doing social media. So if there was anything, I think we've got such a great product market fit. I think just people knowing about it is the challenge. More people need to know about it.
Has social media been a big driver for the company or just for you personally?
Yeah. So big part of the word of mouth was YouTube has a lot of education on how to get into real estate, or, how to do roofing. And on the real estate side, people were making videos and saying, man, this app's so great. It can help you do this, etc. So social media was by definition there just a huge part of it, even though we weren't doing it. It was other people's social media that was doing it.
Interesting. Question for somebody that were looking to start their own business, have their own startup. What advice would you give to them? One piece of advice would you give to them if they were looking to start over in, let's say, in your industry?
Okay, got it. Yeah. So in my experience, I didn't have any, family members who started a business, but I knew I wanted a business. I knew I had conviction that that was the biggest, easiest way to build wealth, more so than investing, et cetera. So if you think about investing, you can get 8 to 20% return in the stock market. But when you're young, you don't have like a lot of money, probably, like I did not either. And if you're starting over, you wouldn't have a lot of money either. The skills, right? Buying a coach to help you with marketing skills, buying a coach to help you with sales skills, or I did E-Myth coaching back in the day early to help me clarify my vision, so that when I was hiring and my other team members that were working on the company with me had a vision here and could use that vision and values to go make their own decisions that were in line with where I wanted to go. Like that stuff was great, and I paid to do that, right? So I would just say investing in your skills more so than investing in stocks is going to pay off, because that's the biggest driver in growing your personal income. And then you could use some of that to invest in stocks and other things that you want to invest in. But first, invest in your skills and get that help to shortcut the learning curve there, I think would be my major recommendation for somebody starting out.
And what were those skills for you to develop?
Well, other than the E-Myth stuff, which is a story about this family business that sells pies, and they've got 3 family members. And at first, whoever needs, when the flour is low, like somebody orders the flour. But as they get busy, they're so busy, they see that the flour is low and they're like, I'm too busy to order the flour right now. Marvin will see that and he'll order the flour. But the problem is, because it's nobody's particular, responsibility, Marvin is also too busy now. And he also thinks, no, David's going to order the flour, and therefore nobody orders the flour. And the whole thing is no longer to make pies because nobody ordered the flour. And so the E-Myth is all about, even when you don't have a lot of team members, writing out all the positions that you envision there being, what the responsibilities are, and then putting someone's name by the position. So I had like 12 positions probably at that stage, even though it was just me and a partner. And I put my name by like 9 of them, and my partner was on 3 of them, So that just really clarifies whose job is it. So that way that people have responsibility and don't drop the ball. So, that was a major skill. Another one was I took a copywriting course so that I could write emails in a way that could help educate people on my product when I really had no idea. Like even that course, which was not expensive, gave me a framework to work through. So those are some of the skills that I'm talking about.
How do you decide what to delegate in your business?
So you do like an audit. You could do an energy audit of what are all the tasks that I do, or you could do it by time. What is all the time I spent this past week, and write it all down and mark it as, did this give me energy or did this take energy away? So the stuff that actually took away energy is the first candidate for getting stuff off your plate. And then you want to rank it by how expensive is this task to do. So booking flights is like a low dollar task. Somebody that you pay $10 an hour could probably do that really well, like almost as well as you, as long as you write out all your preferences. So that's exactly how I did it. And usually why an executive assistant type person is one of the number 1 hires somebody should do, because there ends up just being a lot of tasks that somebody like that can take off your plate that are lower dollar and that typically like don't give you energy, but still take up a lot of time, like calling customer support and being on hold for 30 minutes. I don't want to do that, but it is important in some cases, right? So there's just a lot of small tasks that I think that executive assistant can really take off your plate. But that's how I've always done it and delegated that way.
What position was your best hire at DealMachine?
The actual first position we hired was a customer support representative, because it was just me and my partner who were both engineer type people. And the support questions would come in, and they were coming in. We weren't like the most empathetic people, especially at the time, right? More younger and just more engineer type from the get-go. And so, I could tell, I'm like, I know we're not the best, like loving customer support person here. And when people have problems, like it can definitely like wear on you, right? And so if you're the person where that can wear on you, you don't want that to come through and be customer's experience. So the first thing that we hired was somebody to take on answering the customer support chats. And so this person was such a different personality, right? They were a feeler. They were just like a lover. They wanted to pour into people and really truly help them out all day long, and they never got tired of it. And that was just such a great thing, because we got our time back. We didn't drain our energy. And then the customers also had a better experience, because that person is just more of a feeler, more an empathizer, right? So that was a great hire. And she's still with us to this day. I'm super proud. Just celebrated her 6th year anniversary. Elise is who that person is. And she now leads our marketing team. So as we've grown, it's been great, because it provides opportunities for your team that may want to learn other skills too.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, 6 years there. So
yeah, it did take 2 years of working before we could even pay ourselves like $50,000 a year, $3,000 a month, right? Which is a living expense, right? To pay for our own just expenses. But then we did have enough and had some growth that second year at the end there, where we could hire somebody else for like a similar salary at the time. So Hope that helps.
Yeah. Those first 2 years, what did those days look like for you?
So I was 26 at the time. Basically came around the idea of real estate investing while I had a job. And then I made this app to help me find that rundown house. And then somebody at a meetup was like, "Hey, I'll pay $1,000 to try any new marketing." And I was like, "Whoa, I didn't even try to sell this, but they're willing to pay, to send direct mail through the app. That's what the money was going to go towards." And then I had a lot of conviction. I was like, I need to quit my job and work on this full time because I just sold something that wasn't even hard to sell. And I tried to quit my job, but I was nervous because I didn't have any income. So I bought a house before I quit my job with 5 bedrooms. It was like an 1,800 square foot house with 2 bedrooms extra in the basement. And then I got roommates to pay $550 a bedroom to go live in those. So that paid for my mortgage expense. And then I quit my job, right? So then I just work on the dining room table every day, all day. I didn't go on any trips. I had this Honda Accord with like kind of rust on the fender, but I also put this banner on the back that's like, text this code to sign up for satellite TV. And if somebody texted it, I would get like a $200 fee. I mean, I was stooping to all lows just to make it, you know what I mean? I was like dedicated and trying to do everything I can to reduce my living expenses for a while. Yeah. So, and then I started to go to, I wanted to go to a conference and meet a real estate investor who ran a conference. I was like, maybe they'll like my app and then maybe they'll share it with their audience. And so, that was pretty much what I focused my efforts on, was just laptop computer time, building the app, making it better on social media, interacting with people, and then going to conferences. And my business partner really took over the development from that standpoint. So, I mean, that's really it. Those 3 things were what I did for like 2 full years and not much else.
Is there any year specifically where you experienced some exponential growth?
But yeah. So we had 20,000 revenue one year, then 1,300,000, then 6 million, then 9 million, and then 12 million. Those were the first like 4 or 5 years. And that was all before we formed a marketing team. It was just explosion of word of mouth, great product market fit. So yeah, I mean, what can I do to replicate that? I would just say it was a special case where I knew the product would work because I had internships at AT&T. I could see the sales team had a CRM to manage their process, right? But then I could see real estate investors. I was trying to be one. Everyone's getting told to go look for these rundown houses, but there's not a tool to help with that process. So I focus on making it for myself, but then for that other friend. And then I put on the app store and let other people use it too. And so that was just great product market fit. And I had the conviction because I saw a similar product in another industry, and I knew that it seemed like, well, then it should definitely be in this one, So that was, I think, what drove a lot of that growth. And it was also a time where YouTube information about real estate investing was just coming out, right? And I told you that really drove our business. And so it was a little bit of luck along with a lot of hard work as far as like the timing of that.
Out of curiosity, how do you feel? Because it's way different now than it was 8 years ago.
How do I feel? I feel like business is not a game of who's best, but it's like the last man standing. It's kind of funny how we got the attention of a whole industry really at the time. And then there was like some old property software that was like, you could buy it on a CD-ROM. They were around for like 20 years, right? But then they saw us, so they built like a SaaS product. They grew to about 3 times larger than us. They sold to a title company about 3 years ago. So good exit for them. But like, I mean, we've still continued to innovate and build better. And now, I mean, they're kind of shrinking while we're growing. So it's like, okay, I could have given up seeing that we got overtaken with all the attention and what people were talking about. But it's kind of funny how just deciding to stick with it, continue to grow, continue to innovate, continue to, provide value to the customer. And it honestly just happened again. There was another company that was probably second largest, and they also recently sold to the same company, and they ended up selling on a downturn, their CEO said in a podcast. And I heard that and I was like, I remember feeling that when we were having a tough time. I was like, man, should we just try to sell our business and go do something else? And I'm so glad we didn't, right? Because we were able to turn the tide over a year or two. And so yeah, I just feel like they were obviously better, but I think I'm really proud that we're the last man standing is at the moment. And so I think that I didn't really realize that at first. When you have a rocket ship and you've never had a business before, that first downturn really hits hard. There's a lot of uncertainty. You're like, well, I've never hit a roadblock like this before. Now I have a lot to lose, right? It's like a big It's a big part of who you are when you work on only your business and nothing else, and then something doesn't go right, and so those are all struggles that I have. And I forgot what your actual question was, but I know the lesson was just, don't get discouraged by bumps in the road. Know that it's not about who's best right now, but it's about the last man standing. Like, don't give up. Eventually you'll figure it out. If you just work so hard, it's kind of inevitable that success will end up coming around your way. What do you think? You agree? I mean, you just had to exit yourself, you said.
Yeah, no, I do agree with, it's about who's the last man standing. Absolutely. Because I had a way different mindset before. I wanted the quick money,
Yeah.
and the quick money is not always the best money. And it's, a lot of people I talk to say that the slow growth is always better. That means it's more organic, it's less likely of it to go away just as fast. So it's about that slow growth and the last man standing perspective that I
Yeah.
really now grasped on. And we kind of touched on it a little earlier with Gary Vaynerchuk's quote, how I didn't have context in it before, but now I do. That's, that's one of those things as well.
Yeah. Cool.
What's David's goal with Deal Machine?
So, I mean, I think we're really energized by the fact that the solar, the roofing, they seem to even be bigger potential customers because they use more data. Every house in America is a candidate for solar, and every house in America that has maybe a 15-year-old roof is a good candidate. That's way more total addressable market than what a real estate investor is looking for. A real estate investor is really filtering down to who's not paid their taxes, who has a rundown house, who's in a pre-foreclosure situation. And so that's like a lot fewer homes than the addressable market for a realtor or solar companies. We are 100% full focus on real estate investors, but I'm very interested to help and see, how these other two industries could benefit, because it seems like we could even help them so much more. And so I haven't had this amount of conviction since the very first couple of years of DealMachine. So it's a very exciting time. I actually said, like, oh man, if I ever had an exit, I would love to be a race car driver. But I really just was like, well, why not just do that now? So I just got back from like a 4-day trip where I was racing in Virginia, and I joined this spec racing series where a lot of the drivers are actual business owners or the kids of business owners. So they're either 20 or they're like 45 and older. And so I'm a bit in the middle of those two groups, but it's really fun though, because you can network with other business owners in a like natural way. I mean, you're competing. You're not even there to give a presentation on what's working well in my business and what do I need help with. But you know what I mean? You could just still have those conversations in a natural way, which I like and really enjoy. Wasn't an aspect of it that I thought I would like. So it was kind of a goal I thought I had to put on a delay, but I've been able to start doing it now, which was really fun. And it takes the necessity away from, if you have a great business, you don't really need to sell it. And so that's my goal, is to just have a very good sellable business, but also not need to sell it. And so I think that's, I'm kind of like living that right now, which is great. And there's a lot of opportunity still to get excited about. So it's not like I've gotten tired of having the same, conversations over and over again. Tony Robbins has a thing. He's like, do you know how many times Billy Joel has sang the same words in front of a crowd? Like, does it surprise you that he hasn't gotten sick of doing that? Because I think a lot of business owners can get bored of their business,
Yeah.
But I think Tony Robbins has these like 6 needs, and you've got to connect what you do to whatever your 6 needs are, right? So I forget what the 6 needs exactly are, but you can imagine. I'm going to Google it right now. There you go. Tony Robbins, discover the 6 human needs. Free commercial for this. I've not done this. Okay, 6 human needs, like certainty, variety, significance, connection, growth, contribution. So I'm sure for Billy Joel, obviously significance is part of that. You get thousands of people coming together to see you. So you're going to feel special, important, unique. But I think every person, they have a different set of needs. And for you, you need to figure out what your needs are and make your work connect to it. Yeah, I think for me, I would definitely not be lying, because it's kind of a grind to go in Facebook groups and comment on and people and answer stuff all the time. But to see the reaction, be like, shoot, it's the man himself. Like, that's very good feeling for me. I feel like what a privilege it is to be in the position where people can have that reaction, right? And so it definitely drives me to like keep doing that. And I feel that that's one aspect of how I have not gotten bored, with
Yeah.
having the same business for 8 years.
I was going to ask earlier when you were talking about, how you had so much conviction now. just like in the early years. Do you feel like you've had this newfound energy after seeing this other market you can tap into?
Yes, a lot of the real estate investors we've been able to help historically have been more beginners because the strategy I mentioned at first, how I got started looking for rundown houses, is more of a beginner strategy. And the people who we've been helping in solar and real estate, they've been around for 8 years, 10 years. So the conversations we're having are an elevated conversation. But the same is true on the real estate investor side as well. We've been able to help more advanced real estate investors now that we become more data focused. And those conversations truly do give me a lot of energy because I'm about to go to a conference in Huntington Beach with Thatch Wynn's Inner Circle. And I'm going to get to talk about how our average retention at DealMachine for our team is 5 years. And we've only had employees for 6+ years. So why is that? And what are the things that I learned in being a leader on like how to attract talent, but how to retain talent, how to be open-minded, to give feedback in a helpful way. So those are things I'm passionate about because it's just real knowledge and learning that I've had that for a beginner wouldn't necessarily be that helpful because what they need is just get their first sale. Yeah. But I'm more passionate about some of the stuff that I've learned, because it's closer to me having learned it. So those definitely give me energy for sure.
Where do you see DealMachine a year from now?
Well, hopefully it's quite a bit larger growth with those bigger data customers, are more dollar per average customer. So we're still going to be mostly real estate investor focused, but I would say the segment of our roofing, solar, other industries could grow to as much as 25%. I think that'll be a huge driver of our growth going forward.
Can you share a little bit about the strategy you plan on implementing to go about that?
Yeah, well, I really am taking a community-driven approach instead. So, because one of the things about like being data focused is everyone says, "Hey, I've got great data, believe me," and then because everyone says that, nobody believes you. So I've found it to be really helpful to talk about these are major pain points for solar people. Come here, an expert, describe how they overcame this, and then because that person presenting is typically like one of my customers, the people on the call will learn about DealMachine from a trusted third-party source. I told you at the beginning, our business was really driven by word of mouth. I do marketing, but the point of my marketing is to drive more of that word of mouth because that just seems to be the most effective way that like our business gets shared. That's my strategy. Paid ads to get people on that weekly call, selecting customers and influencers in that space to come present to our audience. And even if my presenter is not the customer, some of my customers are also on the call, right? It's a mix of people who come to hear what their peers are implementing so that they can improve their business, as well as people who have no idea what our business is and just came to it from an ad. So that's been my strategy. Good questions. What do you think as somebody who runs an agency to grow businesses and utilize even AI to do that? What is your feedback on that?
Well, I think that's a great approach because what you explained earlier with, people seeing your name directly and you're directly associated with DealMachine, it does give you that like, wow, I'm speaking to the founder himself, that definitely gives somebody, I want to say, confidence in that you're willing to put your own product out there and your face out there with the product, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's a big deal because a lot of people, a lot of founders, they're like to be hidden and just let the face of the
Yeah.
company be that. But
Yeah.
the way you explain it, it's like you're like hand in hand with it. You're a face of
Yep.
Deal Machine as well.
Yeah. 100%.
So I think that gives people confidence because if Deal Machine fails, it's your face at the front.
There's a personal reputation.
Absolutely. So your reputation is on the line. And yeah, I think a community driven product is more important than I don't even know how to explain the other side of it, but I just think that that supersedes everything else. A community is what makes a product, what makes it better. It's what makes everybody in that community even be more connected.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think it's a great approach. I think,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely. What is the biggest challenge you see yourself facing now with that strategy?
I would say, I mean, I spend about $10,000 a month on ads, and I get about I would say 100 people to sign up, but then 30 people to show up. And so I would just say even honing in that ad spend even more to get more people to show up. I think the next step is to hire somebody that has the time to reach out to everyone as they sign up to help get more people find a solution for whatever they're looking for, right? Because normally we don't ask them, hey, what are you hoping to get out of this call until we're on the call. So I'm going to open a position for a SDR type person, right? Who can just communicate with them as they sign up to make sure we're giving them what they need right away. And hopefully more of them will show up and more of them will be able to help.
Yeah. How do you incorporate feedback in your business?
So I took it to an extreme. At first, it was from this book called The Great CEO Within. Beautiful book. One of my favorite books. I've said this for ever since I read it. And I read about 20 books a year. So being one of my favorites is actually something. It's written by this guy named Matt Mochary, and his whole career is he'll take over Silicon Valley like startups, and he'll take over as CEO. He'll fix the problems, and then he'll put the CEO back in place, right? So he's done this many times, and one of the best ways to fix problems and to root out like it always comes from drama or humans not working together, communicating together in the best way. He has this feedback formula. So we implemented the formula, and we like forced all the leaders to give round robin feedback to each other every month in front of each other. And so the formula is like, hey, Marvin, I really appreciate you inviting me to this podcast. I wish that you would have done whatever, I don't know, sent me a bottle of water beforehand because I'm really thirsty now. And then you could say, I accept that or I reject that, right? So it's a format that gives both people a format, and they don't just have to accept it and listen to it. They could say, I reject that, David, because we live miles away and that's not normal. Shut up. So that would be the format that we'd actually make people do that to each other in front of other leadership team members, because I felt like it was important. Feedback is very tough. It's very emotional, and emotional conversations are hard. They don't go well most of the time. And so getting the leadership team to get good at that and modeling that would then help them deal with problems that might exist on their teams, right? And I think that's a huge reason why we actually have such a long retention, is because I got our team to like be pretty good at that. So there's not a lot of like drama that you'd normally see in a workplace. So got to thank that book, Great CEO Within.
That's amazing. How old is that book? Do you know?
I don't know how old it is. Let me see.
Just because I actually read that similar concept in Dan Martell's book.
Oh, yeah. I did coaching with Dan Martell back in 2019, and Dan actually recommended the book to us at that time. The book was published in 2019. So there you go. I mean, that was somebody in Dan's network, obviously. And he brought in Matt to go talk to us as well after we read the book in 2019, 2020. So he has I did private coaching with him and whatnot for a couple years back then. So it's funny you read that in his book.
Talk to me a little about that. How was that?
It was great. So it was incredible. I had some of the most inspiring like moments, and that was when our company was really growing and I needed to put a structure within it, such as a marketing team, right? Because it was all just like word of mouth and quite large, and I didn't have all the infrastructure needed. So Dan's program had playbooks to put a marketing team in place. Like, how do you measure a marketing team? What's the scorecard look like? And then as our team was growing, the stuff like how to implement feedback was very helpful. A lot of the learning I had was from that program. But also we did some stuff that was so cool. Like before COVID, he had a group of 10 founders, and they did 10 million a year or more. And so that was the first time I'd ever gotten around other founders that were at that level or higher. So that was important as well, I think, to my own like growth, because you want to learn from people who are just like pickleball better than you. And so that was great. But we did some cool stuff like sniper rifle meditation exercise. We had like a dinner in someone's house. It was like fully catered. There was a guy there who he had a McLaren, and I just was like, oh, I guess that means I can have a Ferrari. And so Dan was like, yes, you can, but maybe you should tie it to a goal, right? To push yourself a little further. So just all that kind of stuff where you can't get better if you don't play with people who are better than you at the pickleball game, right? That really sharpens you up. If you play with people who are worse than you, your own skills will probably just get worse because you're lazy, right? It's too easy. So that was a big thing for me, and I really enjoyed that.
How do you measure success in your initiatives, and what are probably some key performance indicators that you focus on?
Dude, I just sat on campus here at UT with a tablecloth that said, I'm a CEO, ask me anything. And this kid asked me, how do you define success? And he was actually trying to make sure I wasn't evil. It's so funny. Some kids were like, what is it like influencing politics? And I was like, yeah, I think you mean billionaires. I'm not at that level yet. That doesn't happen, just if you're a millionaire. But you got to love the honest questions. And this kid was like, well, how do you define success? And I said, if you want to make $1 million, you need to help 1 million people, which is like a cliche thing that people say, but it's kind of true. You really have to deliver value to somebody and find a way to do that. And so he's like, so you define success by helping people. And I was like, exactly. And he was like, well, good. Oh, that's awesome. He's thought I was going to just be only about money. And, it was cool. And he was like, man, I don't want to make money, but I just want to help people. And, so yeah, I mean, I just get a lot of joy out of truly like doing right by people. I will say if there's a negative comment on a forum or whatever, I always I'm there. I'm like, hey, this is me. You're talking about my business. Where do we go wrong here? And sometimes I really just don't know because we have 10 customer support people and they don't tell me every situation that came in because there's 3,000 chats a month, So I think being open-minded is a great way to learn and doing the hard thing. Like you could send direct mail through the app and somebody canceled their subscription, but then sent $15,000 of mail on accident. And he asked for a refund. I'm like, okay, but you got the value from the mail, right? And he's like, well, yeah, but I can't handle all these leads. And he even got a deal. And I looked at it objectively and I was like, you know what? If you cancel the app, we should definitely not allow it to send mail. So I'm going to give you the refund. You could keep all the mail and I'm going to fix the app so that can't happen in the future. It's really hard to do that, but I do feel like that is the long-term correct way to think about it, is just high accountability. I want my team to be accountable. I try to be totally accountable in situations like that. And there you go. I mean, I didn't just offer all the mail back. I was like, well, you're getting value. What do you think is right? And I went with what he thought was right, even though I didn't totally agree. So yeah, accountability and helping people.
Any other major changes coming to the app?
Yeah. So as we become more data centric, I think you can search by 5 counties at once, but now you're going to be able to search over the whole US. It was a big engineering challenge because there's like millions of records to filter through and make it fast. But for somebody who's looking for like a really niche person, and I mean, like real estate investors they'll like buy properties nationwide sometimes, not just locally. It'll allow them to say, give me all the tax delinquent people nationwide, not just in these 5 counties. So that won't necessarily be a huge list, but it'll be groundbreaking because there's no other tool where you can just do that nationwide. And so we've been working on that for 6 months or so, and that'll be an upcoming change coming in the next. And for people who are in the roofing space, as this podcast, it's been about a lot, it allows you to zoom out more so you could draw that shape exactly around where that storm was, not just that specific county. And so those are going to be really big breakthroughs.
Nice. David, one last question before I take any much more of your time.
Yeah, what's up?
What's one thing you hope to better in your business?
One thing I hope to better in my business. Good question. I feel pretty lucky. I feel like most of the business does run without me. I'm always working on whatever is the most needed thing. Man, now that we have a customer that can pay more, we're going to create a team of like higher level customer support people. And so I think that's one really exciting thing for us, is because now we can offer more than just chat support, but we can offer the ability for somebody to come phone in or, have a relationship with like a single person for the like higher dollar accounts. And so I think that's something I'm really excited about. People have different preferences on how to get the support that they need. And so just being able to provide that and it make economic sense is something I'm excited about.
David, thank you so much for jumping on this podcast. I really appreciate it.
You bet, man. Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
David from DealMachine, guys. Thank you, everyone.
I was going to say, if you guys want to join one of those roofing calls, go to dealmachine.com/roofing, and that'll be a sign up for you to join one of our weekly Tuesday calls, where there's experts, customers who have built a revenue engine for appointment setting in roofing.
David, thank you so much. Can they connect with you on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn is good. I'm also on Instagram, D Lecko, and Facebook as well, David.Lecko. So thank you for mentioning that. Absolutely.
David, thank you so much.